Former Governor Rod Blagojevich is coming up on his first anniversary as a free man. He was released from prison on February 18th of last year after President Trump commuted his sentence. Blagojevich served 8 years of a 14-year sentence after he was convicted of attempting to sell a U.S. Senate seat.
And he joins us this morning. Good morning, former Governor Blagojevich. Good to have you with us this morning.
Good morning. Nice to see you. By the way, it was never this cold when I was governor.
You know, you've characterized all this as routine politics, but I think that's what bothers people. We can have the debate about legality, but I think people see it as smarmy. And I'm wondering if you have any sense of remorse at all.
No, I have none whatsoever. I didn't break a single law or cross a single line. It was all politics, routine political conversations, discussions initiated by then President-elect Obama. Now, he didn't do anything wrong, and neither did I. And I would I'd have a great amount of regret, and I would have let the people down if I gave in to the pressure these people put on me to say what they wanted me to say. I wouldn't do it. I was defiant, and then after a second trial, because they failed to convict on their fake corruption charges at a first trial, they used an unlawful standard, a standard that would criminalize the actions of everybody in politics when they see campaign contributions. There was never a promise or a threat. That's the requirement in order to have a crime. We never did that. And so they used a fake standard to do what they did, and then they condemned me to prison for 14 years. I never took a dime or a penny. It was none of that kind of stuff. This wasn't corruption or brown paper bag. This was routine politics. And this is dangerous. They did it to me. They've attempted to do it to others. There is the real challenge now in our country where some of these overzealous prosecutors with uncontrolled power are criminalizing the routine practices.
But wait a second, various juries and judges said that there was overwhelming evidence. Doesn't that count for something? A jury of your peers?
Well, again, the facts were never in dispute. The question is, those conversations were all legal. And when the jury is given what are called jury instructions, and they're told that the law is something that it's not, an unlawful standard, which is what happened in the second trial, they had no choice but to make the decision they did. If Senator Durbin or Governor Pritzker or anybody in politics faced that same trial, they would have had the same result. Because the fact is that you can ask for campaign contributions so long as you don't promise anything or threaten anybody. And that's what happens in politics. It's routine. If we don't like those rules, we ought to change the laws and change them. And I think there's a valid argument to make about changing those rules. But no, I didn't cross the line or break a single law, and I would have been remorseful if I gave in to the pressure those people were putting on me. They're the ones who really violated the law. And frankly, at some point, I don't know if it'll ever happen, but I'll never stop seeking justice to not only clear my name, but to hold those who did this to account.
You have a podcast, the Lightning Rod podcast, where you discuss everything. In one of the episodes, the title is Corruption in Chicago, Illinois, and Hunter Biden. You criticize Mike Madigan. Is there a lot of people might find it unusual that someone who is convicted is criticizing other people for corruption here in Illinois? What do you say to them?
Well, what I've said about Mike Madigan is that he's been a Speaker of the House since 1983, with the exception of 2 years. He'd been in Springfield since 1973. He's a career professional politician. There's a reason why Illinois is the highest tax state in the nation. Taxpayers in Illinois pay 40% higher than people in other states. And I would say most of it has to do with the leadership of Mike Madigan in Springfield and that corrupt political establishment. Now, I think it was right that he was no longer the Speaker. I don't want to see him get charged or go to prison. I didn't have a good relationship with him. I fought against him, and we fought when I was the governor. But I don't like to see these sorts of things happen to anybody who's in politics when you don't have a clear case of corruption. If you've got evidence of Madigan taking money in a brown paper bag, that's one thing. But whether or not what he did or what he's involved in is corrupt, that's yet to be determined. Do I trust the criminal justice system at the federal level after what's happened to me? I don't. But I do think it's good that Madigan is no longer there. I do think it's good there's a new day now in Springfield. And the first thing they ought to do is they ought to reverse that rate increase that Madigan and Commonwealth Edison are responsible for, that socks it to the ratepayers and to the consumers. That's the first thing this new Speaker ought to do. They haven't done it yet, and I'm afraid they won't do it.
Do you still support Donald Trump? You were calling yourself a Trumpocrat.
Yes, of course I'm a Trumpocrat. I owe President Trump a great deal, as you know. I was condemned to prison, as I said, for 14 years, 8 years of sheltering in place, in that wretched place, in those wretched circumstances. Who'd have thought a Republican President Donald Trump would have reached in to rescue me, a Democrat governor, restore my freedom and reunite me with my 2 daughters and my wife, Patty. So, of course, I will always be grateful to President Trump, and I'm thankful, and here I am today because of him and because of what he did, and he didn't have to do it.
And
He
even
doesn't gain
after
politically by doing it. Pardon me?
even after the impeachment hearings and everything that happened January 6th at the Capitol, has your opinion changed about the president at all?
Look, I condemn the riots at the Capitol just like I condemn the riots that were taking place in the summertime here in Chicago and all across America, when looters and rioters were destroying property, when they were killing police officers. That kind of mob violence, whether it's motivated by the political left or the political right, is wrong. And I think all of us should put aside partisan politics and be on the side of those who enforce the law. And yes, there are bad police officers, but by and large, we ought to defend our police officers, not defund the police officers, and we ought to be grateful for what they do for us. Just imagine what it would be like if you were away from your family as I was, unable to provide or protect for your children, and there they are all by themselves. It was good for me, comforting for me to know that right around the corner, the 17th District Police Station was there to keep watch on my family. Imagine what our country would be like and our communities would be like if we didn't have police officers around.
Rod Blagojevich, we appreciate you joining us this morning. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You can, as we mentioned, he does a podcast. It's called the Lightning Rod with Rod Blagojevich podcast, wherever you get your podcasts.